Hey there, and welcome back to Body for Minds, the podcast for ambitious mums who want an intentional career and life. I'm your host, Katrina, and today's episode is a little longer than usual, but trust me, it's worth it. We're diving into something that might sound simple at first, tidying up. But this isn't about organizing your entire house or becoming someone you're not. It's about how your physical environment affects your mental space and how even the smallest act of tidying, when done with awareness, can become a gentle reset for your nervous system. We'll explore the science behind clutter and stress, what it means for us as ambitious mums, and how you can use body awareness to reframe tidying as a powerful tool for clarity at home and at work. Plus, I'll share my personal story around clutter, invisible labor, and the emotional layers that come with it. So if you've ever felt overwhelmed by the mess, but also resentful that it's somehow your job to fix it, this one's for you. Let's get into it. Let me start by telling you a bit about my own relationship with clutter and tidying up. I'll be honest, this has been a huge source of friction in my family. It's one of those things that can get me genuinely upset. I've often felt like I'm the only one who notices when the house needs cleaning or straightening up, not just for guests, but for our own peace of mind. After having more than one child, I realized something important though. For me, clutter equals stress. It feels like visual noise, and tidying up gives me the satisfaction of turning down that noise, even if just for a moment. And yet, here's where it gets complicated. I also feel frustrated, because I don't believe keeping the house tidy should fall solely on me. I want weekends to be restful, not filled with chores. But the reality is the mess won't magically disappear. And let's be honest, when things fall through the cracks, who gets judged? No one ever says, oh, look, he's not on top of the chores. It's always, she clearly can't manage it all. Why is she working again? I've done a lot of internal work to challenge those assumptions and to sit with the discomfort of having guests over when the house isn't perfect. After all, I can't really know what they're thinking, and if someone is judging me, maybe that says more about them than about me. In a household of 5, with the youngest still in preschool, tidying feels like a never-ending loop. You clear one surface, and 2 seconds later, toys are everywhere again. So let's normalize homes that actually look lived in. We don't need Instagram-perfect spaces. We need homes that allow us to relax and recharge. And here's the thing. I'm not the only one who feels better in a tidy environment. That's not just intuition. Science backs it up. And that's exactly what we're going to look at next. So what does science say about clutter? Let's dig a little deeper and look at how clutter actually affects our minds, and why even a small act of tidying can be surprisingly powerful. First, the Princeton Neuroscience Institute found that too much visual stimuli, like clutter, literally overloads our brain's processing capacity. What I feel like visual noise, remember? And you probably do too. It makes it harder to focus, and it can even slow down our ability to think clearly or switch between tasks. So when your desk is full of stuff, your mind is too. Then there's the UCLA study on mothers and clutter. They followed 32 families and found that women who described their homes as cluttered had consistently higher levels of cortisol, the stress hormone. What's fascinating is that it wasn't just the mess itself, but how the women felt about the mess that made the difference. That emotional connection is key, because it's not just messy equals stressy. It's also about meaning. Clutter often holds stories, unfinished tasks, decisions we haven't made, projects we meant to finish, toys we haven't put away. That mental load can become emotional weight. And then there's the concept of cognitive load, which psychologists define as the total amount of mental effort being used in your working memory. When your environment is filled with visual noise, your brain is constantly trying to filter what's important and what's not. That's tiring. Now contrast that with what happens after we tidy even a small space. You get a dopamine boost, a little hit of reward. It's similar to crossing something off a list. It gives your nervous system a signal that something is complete, which can be especially helpful when everything feels never ending. So yes, science shows us that decluttering isn't just about appearances. It actually helps reduce overwhelm, improve focus, and support emotional balance. And that makes it a simple but powerful tool in our body awareness toolkit. And this doesn't just apply to your home. A cluttered desk, inbox, or digital folder at work can have the same impact on your brain. Have you ever sat down to work and felt stuck, even though you technically had time and a task list? It could be your environment sending your brain mixed signals, the mental clutter of open tabs, old files, or even that one half-finished report in your line of sight can keep your focus scattered. Research on cognitive load confirms that the brain can only process so much at once. If your visual space is chaotic, your brain has to work harder to filter distractions, which means less brain power for creative thinking, decision-making, or being fully present in a meeting. Even something as simple as closing browser tabs or deleting outdated files can create a sense of mental space, like opening a window after being in a stuffy room. It's not just an aesthetic fix, it's cognitive hygiene. So the next time you're feeling mentally foggy at work, try this. Close down digital distractions, clear a corner of your desk, archive those old folders you haven't touched in a year. You might be surprised how quickly your mind follows suit. Now I want to pause here and make something really clear. This isn't about saying that tidying is your job as a woman or a mom. Far from it. But studies like the UCLA one I mentioned earlier show that women, especially mothers, tend to experience more stress in cluttered environments. Why? Likely because of the invisible load we're carrying. Social expectations still place a lot of responsibility for the emotional and physical environment on women, even in households with shared responsibilities. So this isn't about reinforcing that. This is about reclaiming power, about noticing how your environment makes you feel and using small intentional actions like tidying, not to conform, but to care for yourself. It's not about doing more. It's about supporting your nervous system so you can show up as the version of you that feels most aligned and grounded. And of course, get the whole family on board. You can even use the studies I just mentioned to say, well, look, clutter affects me as a woman or as a mother more adversely, but that doesn't mean that it's my job, and I want everyone to chip in and everybody to do their part, and we're working on keeping our house and home tidy and clean together. But I know tidying can still feel like a burden, and it doesn't have to be forced or polished. This isn't about perfection. Body awareness helps you pause and notice. Do I feel mentally foggy right now? Is my chest tight or my shoulders tense? Am I circling around the same thought with no resolution? These cues might mean you're mentally or emotionally cluttered, not just your home. And here's where tidying becomes a mindful tool. You don't need to tackle the whole house. Wiping a surface, sorting a drawer, folding laundry, if done with intention, can help your nervous system settle and your thoughts slow down. It's not about hiding from your feelings. It's about creating space internally and externally to feel them safely. Let's be honest, sometimes we use tidying to avoid harder stuff, like having a tough conversation or sitting with discomfort. But when you're body aware, you start to notice the difference. Am I avoiding something versus am I giving myself a moment to reset and ground? One is avoidance, the other is conscious, compassionate choice. Tidying can be like cognitive crafting and job crafting. Maybe you remember that episode. You're shifting the story, the why. So the next time you feel foggy, stuck, or scattered, instead of pushing harder, try this. Pause. Tune into your body. Choose one small act of tidying. Do it not because you should, but because you're responding to a need your body is expressing. So, to wrap it up, you don't need to Marie Kondo your entire house. But sometimes clearing a single surface can clear a bit of your mind. So, Mama, next time you're feeling scattered or heavy, don't force clarity. Invite it. Let your body lead. See what shifts when you let a small act of order support your inner calm. And if this episode resonated, I'd love for you to share it with another ambitious mum who might be feeling the weight of both mental and physical clutter. Until next time, more you, not more to do.